I haven't heard about moon pies in a long time. In the absence of what you want, create it.
Everybody, it didn't matter if I was working in Argentina or India or US or Japan or wherever, people want to win.
I'm here to learn. I'm not an imposter. I'm here to learn something new, and that's okay.
When somebody tells me I can't do something, my two words are watch me.
You have to first know yourself. Then you have to continually, relentlessly grow yourself, and then be willing to boldly show yourself.
The only real free person is the person who is disciplined and structured.
You have to focus on what you must do. And so often we allow what we can do crowd out what we must do. And what we must do is the strategic choices.
We can't conquer what we're not willing to confront.
No one cares about you until you show a little care for them.
When individuals win, companies win, because companies are made of individuals.
Bitcoin or BTC, $1 trillion CAP, don't sleep on cryptocurrency, just make some money while you sleep.
Reimagine who you are, who you want to be, and get through it. You got to get through it. At the end of the day, you always got to find a way to win. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Winner's Circle. I'm Daphne Jones, and this is the space and the place where champions come to talk, not just about being a success, but it's about being full of success, being successful, and about what it truly means to win. Because, winning is not accidental, isn't about luck, and it isn't just a surface level situation. It's a mindset. It's a decision that we all have to make. And it's a discipline we have to demonstrate. And here at the Winner's Circle, I am so blessed to sit down with extraordinary leaders and innovators and visionaries to understand, how do they define winning? How do they sustain it? And oh, by the way, how can we get a little bit of some of that and turn it into our own Winner's Circle, no matter what arena we're playing in? Today, I am so excited to welcome and honor a true global authority in technology. Even though I was a CIO, I didn't know as much about technology as this guy does. He's into technology, leadership, and disruptive innovation, Mr. Ray Wang. Ray Wang is the founder, chairman, and principal analyst of a Silicon Valley-based research company called Constellation Research, where they study exponential technologies, these big words, disruptive business models that shape our world. He coined the term metaverse economy and is widely recognized as a leading authority on AI and AI policy. Long before many of these things became mainstream, Ray was talking about it. He's a co-founder and the co-host of Disrupt TV, a weekly webcast that reaches tens of thousands of viewers. And he's a best-selling author. And I have his book, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which we'll talk about a little bit today, where he explores how digital giants are reshaping the future of business and power. He has spoken at nearly every major conference in the world. He advises Global 2000 companies, boards of directors, governments, startups, investment firms. And he was the one that made me say, I want to be on TV as much as he is. He's on the Wall Street Journal. He's at CNBC. He's at Bloomberg. He's at Forbes. He's at Fox News with Maria. And he has spent decades helping leaders to understand how not to just survive disruption, but how to win behind it. Behind the millions of miles that he has flown, I think it's over 4 million air miles traveled. What I'm most interested today is, and for all of us to understand, is how does Ray Wang define winning? The epitome of winning himself. What does it take to stay ahead in a world that seems to change by the minute? And how can each of us apply all that he knows and what he knows so that we can win in our own lives? So without any further ado, I'm going to say, Ray, welcome to the Winner's Circle. And you know what? I'm honored that you said yes to me.
Hey, I'm glad I made it here. So thank you for having me, Daphne. Thank you for your generosity. And of course, I'm so humbled by the intro. I don't know what to say. So,
well, you did it. The main thing is you did it. So all that stuff, I could have gone on certainly a lot longer. but we're glad to have Ray here. And by the way, we're going to do questions. You all are welcome to ask questions and type them in anytime until about the next 40 or 45 minutes. I'll probably put a kibosh on it at that point so that we have a chance for Ray to answer the questions. So you can do hashtag the winner's circle live, and or you can ask hashtag ask Ray because Ray is used to people asking him a lot of questions. So Ray, we're going to jump in here and talk about winning. And I don't really have a lot of questions about you personally, but I do have a couple. First of all, you advise Global 2000 companies, boards, leaders, governments, startups, etc. You are a winner, and you help people and companies win. After you've seen winners from all various vantage points, government, individual, corporation, C-suite, boardrooms, how do you define winning now, today? And how has that changed from over your own career? Did you always define winning the way you do today, or has it changed?
You know, it's a great question. And when you start out, you think of winning as an individual sport. You think about how you achieve success, what you're trying to get, whether you're trying to get to a degree or to certificate. You're trying to figure out how you get that first job. Then you figure out how to get promoted, or you figure out, do I get promoted inside this company? Or, you know, and the success is pretty much, it looks like a ladder. And over time, you realize that's someone else's. That's necessarily your difference. You start figuring out all the things you don't want to do, all the things you do not like, and all the other jobs that you're doing. You start to build my own. I want to chart my own path, and to me, like that's the winning part. Like, do I balance that with family life? Do I balance that with volunteerism? Do I balance that with a cause? Is it just revenue? Do I go after something that's bigger than yourself? Do you pay it forward? What have you done to mentor? And so the terms on winning change as you evolve. You realize that winning is actually a team sport. You realize that winning is part of a larger ecosystem. You start to figure out the friends you want to hang out with, the people you want to bring in, and then it becomes fun. And it's not just about winning. It's about who you get to win with. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing I learned over the years. I think when I first started out, it was really about just like, what's in it for me? And now you realize what's in it for everyone else. And that's where you start to get, well, for me at least, that's where it gets exciting. When you convene people, you bring people together, you connect them. People are like, oh no, you guys haven't met before, right? Let's get them together. When you get a deal done and people have a win-win, I mean, that's when I get excited.
That's right. So it's like winning with us. First, it's winning about yourself, being able to have met some kind of a pinnacle of some sort. But then you realize, well, winning by yourself is no fun.
It's lonely.
It's lonely there. And, my son graduated from Morehouse College, and at the graduation ceremony, I guess they're called president, maybe he was the president of Morehouse. He said, I want you all to go out. And when you go out, you're going to do well. You're going to live well. You're going to make good money. You're going to do well. But while you're doing well, I also want you to do good. And that to me is sort of what I hear when I hear you say about winning. It's not only about yourself, it's about doing things with and for other people and doing well and doing good.
Definitely.
That's great. Awesome. So many people, though, do equate winning with how much money, how much revenue, how popular, how visible, how many likes, all that kind of thing. From your vantage point, what would you say is the most misunderstood metric of success that we just overplay it, and it doesn't really matter as much as something else?
Revenue is still a good number. I'm not going to diss revenue. Like billions of dollars asset under management, revenue that you drive, P&Ls that you manage, number of people. But as I get older, I think the most important metric is how many people have you touched. And when I look at really good leaders, you can come down and you say, oh my God, that person worked at this company. And you see a cadre, right? I mean, you look at the classic GE and the number of leaders that, an FMP program created, right? Like those training programs from the beginning and the rotation. I mean, that was like a management training powerhouse, right? You look at some of the companies where they've got great internships and chief of staff and rotation programs, like the classic IBM had that kind of program, right? And these are the companies where you just go back and say, yeah, they created great leaders. There's a great legacy, and people just spun off and then created other companies from there. I think to me that's probably the most important piece is really what you leave behind and the people you touch. I mean, it's great. You made a lot of revenue, and you're one hit wonder. That's awesome. Can you repeat it? Can you do it again? Can you do it with a new team? Can you do it with new people on the team? Right? Not even the same team. And that means you have the gift, you love the craft, and you're willing to pass it on.
So there's the lineage thing that goes on here. So it's not just about what you did by yourself, as we talked earlier, but what we do others. But how did you leave that legacy so it continues after you're gone? They say that people plant trees under which the shade they will never sit and enjoy. So it's about how many people did you touch to leave the lineage and the legacy going forward. Excellent. Great. Let me ask a question about constellation research. There are people who don't bet on themselves, and there's some people who do bet on themselves. And I look at constellation research as a global authority. You all have hit it really, really big. What was the moment, or was there a moment before you created constellation research where you say, you know what, I'm going to try something. It's never been done before. People won't know what it is, but I'm going to bet on myself. I want you to help us understand, is it okay to bet on yourself? And how did you do it? And did you ever doubt yourself?
I always doubt myself, even now. And I had to say, there's a little bit of that makes you successful, because you want to make sure everything's perfect. You want to make sure you haven't missed something. You make sure you haven't, you've done everything in the right order, right? That part's not going to change. But I was at a really good place. I was working at Forrester Research, and I really enjoyed the work that I did. And it was driving a good amount of revenue. Then I came home. My dad, of all people, tells me, "Hey, how much do you make?" I said, "Okay, here's how much I make." He goes, "Oh, that's an interesting number." I said, "Okay, all right." I said, "Well, why is that interesting?" He's like, "What are you worth?" And I'd never had anyone ask me, "What are you worth?" I added up everything, and the number I had was 10x. No, 20x. No, actually, it's 30x the number I was bringing in. And so I'm driving 30x of my salary, and my dad's like, "That's ridiculous. It should be 10x, right? You should get at least 10% of what you're bringing in." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." So to go to my boss and say, "Hey, look, if I can hit this number, will you pay me this amount?" And he's the founder of the company. He's the entrepreneur. He started his company. I'm like, he'll probably get this. And he goes to me, "Ray, we don't want stars. You don't want stars. Why are you working so hard? You could have a nicer life. You're doing 3 people's worth of jobs. And why would you do that?" I said, "I love my job. Like, if I can hit this number, you pay me 10%, we can just call it even. It'll be fun. I can grow your business for you." He said, "Ray, that's not what we do here."
Wow.
And so I went back home and I said, "Okay, I think I'm going to start my own company." 3 other friends were actually starting a company, so I joined them. We did that, and we eventually sold that company, and then we started Constellation Research. But it was at that moment where I realized, like, that's the strangest thing I ever have. So in my company, there is no upper limit on salary. There will never be an upper limit on salary. You make as much as you want. You make as little as you want. You have a lot of control in your destiny because you're smart enough to go do that. I want you to be able to build your own book of business and keep it and continue to grow it. And it's a constellation of smart people, a constellation of great clients, and a constellation of amazing partners. And that's kind of how we built the company.
That's amazing. And your dad, obviously, sounds like he was a big influence in your life and helped give you the courage and the motivation to say, I can move beyond this. It was your dad. I didn't know that.
Actually, Daphne, it's even funnier. He's the last person in the world that we would expect him to say that. He had the same job for 30 some years, worked his way through the corporate ranks. And so when he said, I think you should start your own company, my mom literally dropped a dish in the sink and it broke. She's like, "No, that's not what he meant. He really wants you to just stay there. It's a great idea." My dad's like, "No, he should go build his own company." Which is totally funny and like totally uncharacteristic of my dad, who just literally worked the corporate ladder all the way up to the top. So.
Yeah. That's one of the things I talk about in my book, When They Say You Won't, is going after your boss and asking them to appreciate the value you contribute. So as a person in the corporate world, my team and I, either we saved billions or millions of dollars and we helped generate millions of dollars. And when I added it all up and I took it to my boss, I asked the question, this is how much the team is generating. Here's how much you're paying the team. Here's how much you're paying me. Maybe we could do a little bit better. And I think if you don't ask, you never get.
Or you don't know. You don't know what you're worth.
You don't know what you're worth.
That is the most important question. You get to say, hey, what am I worth?
What am I worth? That's a great question. That's great. So talk about metaverse. We know Meta is Facebook. Okay, so we got that. But what is metaverse? It's you've coined the term metaverse economy before it became mainstream. But before we talk about the economy, what is metaverse? Can you define it for us? And you said it's going to be 20.7 trillion by 2030. But what in the world is the metaverse?
Well, the easiest analogy to it is if you think about the holodeck on Star Trek, that's the metaverse. Your ability to interact in a simulated world, your ability to take all your physical assets, model them, simulate them before you put them out in the real world. So for example, if you're trying to do, a drug discovery or a trial, you want to put it in the metaverse, make sure it's okay. If you're trying to do a simulation of a transportation project, if you're trying to run a power plant, as you guys did in G, you want to make sure all the things are taken care of, you've managed all the risks. It's your ability to create these simulations along the way. Now there's a consumer part where we know the metaverse, you get the augmented reality goggles, you go in, you definitely have a chance to kind of connect with everybody. That's also part of that. The metaverse economy is really what we build in this digital world. It's the simulations, it's going to be like the representations of the physical world in a digital form. That's going to be important. And while it's not big right now, all the stuff we're doing in AI, all the compute power, all the ability from the glasses that people are wearing now, that's all going to build into that metaverse economy. And so we'll come back in about 3 to 5 years, and with AI fully developed, all the data centers out there, the metaverse economy is going to be huge.
Yeah, I'm reading that they say it's going to be $900 million by just like 4 more years or something. Some folks think the metaverse is dead. Some people say it was just hype. It sounds like you believe it might have been overstated initially, but it's just a matter of time before it is going to continue to exponentially grow. And it's not just a digital twin, though, right? It's more than digital twin.
It's more than that. And what we missed was that you need to have the AI infrastructure in place before the metaverse economy can take off at scale. What we had before was not enough compute power, not enough AI, not enough. The technology has to get a little bit smaller. We're starting to see that. And if you notice, the other day, I think OpenAI revealed this thing that can kind of read your mind and kind of anticipate what you're thinking. And that's the Johnny Ives project that they're talking about with these new kind of technologies. It's the ambient experiences, the things that happen in the background. We're going to see more and more of that. Like right now, we could be, we're in contact with like news that comes across the stream that says, hey, so-and-so, something happened, right? And you could jump in and say, hey, what's going on? You're going to see the difference as you flip from the physical world to the digital world and back.
Yeah, and I think there's a biological world in there too.
Oh yeah.
So that it's an important component. So, all right. So as the leading authority on AI policy, let's say at a moment when everyone is both terrified and excited, what is it about AI that, number one, Ray, keeps you up at night, terrifies you like, oh my God? And then what is the other thing that makes you optimistic about humanity's future with AI?
So you may have read this thing where the Moltbolt, they basically figured out how to get an AI to reach out to a human to get things done for them, right? And that to me was like, oh my God, we've crossed the line here. Because the AI couldn't do it. They conned a human to do some things for them and then brought it back to them so that they could do the next piece, right? And the AI is getting really good at figuring out how to manipulate humans along the way. And I think this is going to continue over time. So that's like, okay, we need a kill switch for that. That is crazy, but it's happening. And so that is probably the scariest thing, is when we cross the digital and the physical barrier with AI, and AI can actually control a lot of the physical world. that's where we're going to have to make sure that, did we put the right controls here? Do we have the right guardrails? You know, are people going to be harmed in here? Have we followed the right, risks? And so I think we'll get to that point, but that keeps me up at night. So
what is it that then on the other side just gives you joy and you're so optimistic about the humanity and what AI can do for us?
Well, this is a really smart question because technology has a dual side. You have the good side and the bad side, and all technologies have that. And on the human side, it's like we're going to find new drugs. We're going to cure cancer. We're going to have the ability to actually, use energy more efficiently. We have different ways to make sure that, we know when models are fair, when capitalism is not capitalism, but it's actually set up to work against you. We've got tools that actually figure out fraud. We've got the ability to come back and, use technology, discover new materials, reach out to space. And so AI is like one of those tools that's going to expand humanity just as much as it could kill us, right? It's really depends on how we want to use it and what kind of representation we have in the place. A simple thing right now is just, I was coming back from CES and you see physical AI is big and they've got these little dogs, right? And these dogs are designed to help elderly patients, regain and reduce their risk on Alzheimer's, because now you're talking to the pet, you're connecting with it, you're treating it as something as yours, it's interacting with you and your neurons are firing and people are getting off their Alzheimer's meds because of these robotic pets, right? And they're becoming less lonely because of the robotic pets, right? So we see things like this and I think there's going to be more good nuggets than bad nuggets, and we also have to prevent the bad nuggets from happening.
Yeah, so there's we talk about humans in the loop or uninterrupted supervision. So it sounds like the companies that are going to continue to focus on AI need to not have, can't go unchecked. There has to be some supervision of humans in the loop so that we don't end up getting used and manipulated by AI or hurt.
Well, me and my good friend, Dr. David Bray, put together some rules on AI governance some time back. And there's really 5 that are important. The first one was, let's make sure the algorithms are transparent, right? We know how they're created. Let's make sure they're explainable, right? Bias is how we make decisions. Unwanted bias is not where we want to go. And so if you're discriminating against left-handed people with purple hair and you didn't know it, like, oh, okay, let's go fix that. How do we reverse that? So reversibility becomes important. And then over time, we've got to train these models, right? 85% accuracy in customer experience. Okay. 85% accuracy in supply chain. Oh, that's $1 million a minute. 85% accuracy in finance. Anybody want to go to jail? 85% accuracy in healthcare. Right. So we got to train these models so we get it to a point where they're okay. And then, of course, last piece is, we've got to be able to, we've got to take these models to the next level and get them ready for humans at a human scale. And so these things become important where we put these concepts in place, at least as level 1 principles for AI.
Yeah, that's great. So where do you say we are? And when I say we, where are we with AI adoption? Where are we as everyday folk? Where are we in healthcare? Where are we in government? Where are we in industry? Pick one if you want, but just give us an idea of how far ahead we are or how far behind we are with adopting AI.
Consumers are using it every day. Instead of going to search, they're going to, Gemini or Perplexity or ChatGPT or, Claude, and they're using it already. They're using it for checking on grammar. Teachers are using it to see if they're cheating on AI. Students are cheating with AI, right? Students are checking in on the teachers. They're like, hey, where'd you get these questions, right? And so you're already seeing it on the consumer side. But at the company level, what was fascinating last year, I was with Kevin Nolan, the CEO of GE Appliances, and he was telling me, like, everybody in the company is going to be using AI. And I said, oh, that's awesome. What do you mean by that? He's like, well, on the line, they're doing quality. They've got cameras. They're looking at the images, and they know that, hey, something is here, right? They can identify defects earlier. They're rewriting software. They have to make sure that there's no malignant code. They're using that already in the software testing. In marketing, what might have been like a 4-month global campaign, they can do it in 4 weeks. And then people that are just, doing simulations, right? They're designing products. They can say, hey, can I fit 1 more 2-liter in here? Or is that a 1-liter, right? They're doing the models and the designs. And, and so he was right. Like literally, if I go back now, a year from now and check in Appliance Park in Louisville, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're all using AI. He was right. So it's one of those things it's just happening all around us, both in the workplace as well as in your daily lives.
Yeah, amen. That's great. Okay, let me switch gears a little bit. One of the places that I have always wanted to go, and I think I'm going to try to go next year with you, is Davos, right? And for those of you that know, I'll call Davos it's like a think tank place where the brightest people that have a point of view on something really important to the world goes and shares ideas and all that. And Ray, correct me if I'm wrong. So you spent a few days, in Davos last month. Can you just talk about what was different? What kind of people were there? So we all get an idea of the level of leadership. And what was the theme this year? And we do have a question coming up. We have a couple questions. So you'll answer this one, then we'll go to the questions. What was the theme different from this year from last year?
So
Davos.
last year was very somber. The presidential election had occurred. The presidential delegation didn't come. AI was just about to take stage. So it was about AI and Trump. And then I realized it was really about energy. Everything depended on energy. And what we had was a really bad energy policy around the world that would inhibit AI or inhibit countries from succeeding. And so I walked out saying, okay, these are the three big things. This year was a little bit different. This year was still AI and Trump, but it was really about stability. What are companies doing to get to the resilience, the stability they need to be able to operate? And I think we walked out of it with three big points. One is margin compression is here. Everybody's working 10 times harder just to stay still, right? They're going through the treadmill and they're like, what, like we're working so hard and we're flat on revenue. What is happening here, right? We're flat on results. Okay, maybe we got 3%, but it's single digits. And unless you're in tech, it's really painful. And so margin compression is here. The second thing is with AI, we've got exponential scale, which means we're thinking in different levels. And so, for example, SpaceX can deliver a rocket launch for 1/10 the cost of NASA. Someone can also deliver 1/10 the cost of SpaceX. It's the Indian Space Agency. So NASA is 100 times more expensive than the Indian Space Agency in getting a launch up. Okay, now NASA does a million other things. We totally get that. But if you're just to run those numbers, it's a huge difference. So if you're on the board of NASA and you're saying, yeah, we're going to do a 50% improvement this year and a 20% improvement in revenue, you're in the wrong scale. Like, what are you guys talking about? Right? So that's totally messed up. And so we've got to think of the scales are 10x, 100x, 1000x. And our comps are really different in the marketplace. The third piece, it's really what we call infinite possibilities. And in the world of infinite possibilities, because in AI, we can code at the speed of thought. We can build everything. But if you can build everything, you build nothing. And that's the issue Apple had. They're like, do we build an EV? No. They decided it was a race to zero, and they said, we're not going to go do that. Now, that's the same thing in strategy. Number one rule in strategy, as you know, Daphne, is tell me what we're not going to do. And so your precision and order of operations becomes even more important because you have all the speed in the world, but that means you're rowing in circles, or you have velocity because you know which direction you're going to. And if your competitor is more disciplined about their order of operations and can reduce the number of steps and get to point A to B faster than you, and you're veered off in a little course over here and someone veered off over here, they win. And so strategy and operations and that execution have got to become closer together. And so this is why I walked out of Davos, as the locals say. After a week there, and you realize that if you're not thinking this way, you're in the wrong game. Now, who's at Davos? I mean, it's world leaders, it's startups, it's family offices. There's about maybe like 3,000 official people, 5,000 folks around the event that get together. And it's a lot of conversation. You can find a lot of great meetings. Some of those people are there to change the world. Some of those are people to, connect and do business. And, for some people, there's a leisure class there. I mean, Davos is on the way to Monaco. It's on the way to sailing off of Croatia on the coast. I mean, it's like that, right? So you get all types of folks like that. And, about 8,000 to 10,000 people go. And it's really exclusive. I mean, 8,000 to 10,000 people out of 8 billion people in the world. That's kind of crazy.
That's crazy. Well, so I wrote down the things that you had mentioned. Margin compression, for those of you that are in business and that are working in your companies, you're seeing it every day. You're whether it be compensation is flat or it's only 2%, it's not rising at the rate of inflation. What it takes to get revenue takes more people, and if we're not using technology well enough, then it's just going to cost us a lot more, and then our margins are going to continue to be compressed. Number two was exponential scale. And then I think it made me think that it's about context. What context are you working in? So you can say that you're 50% cheaper, but cheaper than what? And so that may be a good thing, but it may be a crazy piss poor thing. So I love that idea about NASA. You mentioned to me about kilowatt hours and how China takes 6 cents per kilowatt hour, but Europe
Yeah,
is
they're 8 going to 6, going to 4, going to 2. What are we doing?
we're going up. We're 12 cents.
Yeah, we're 16 going to 17. In California, it's like 35. It's ridiculous. In Europe, it's 25 to 26 cents.
Yeah. So when you talk about, scale and margin compression, we got to look at how are we driving energy and other things in a better way. The third thing was that there are infinite possibilities, and the combination of strategy needs to merge with operations. You can't have the company going this way, but the operations is not allowing the company to win. They have to be connected and aligned. So I love that. Love that 100%. You've worked with, oh, well, here's a question from the Winner Circle. How can we influence companies to use AI ethically and to follow it? For example, your 5 AI governance principles.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to be by industry. We're going to have to decide where we are. When we look at the AI race, and that's a great question, thanks for asking, I would say that you look at who's got the data, who's got the energy, who's got the chips, and who's got the policy. And for example, China has lots of data. They've got really cheap energy. They don't have the chips, but they've got really good policy if you want to believe in the collective notion of the country and getting all the data in one place. In the US, we've got the chips. We got some data. It's all over the place, but we can get to it. Energy is okay in the cost. Our policies are over the map. But we have a laissez-faire policy. We're like, go for it, see what happens. In Europe, we have no data. We have no chips. We have no energy. And we've got very restrictive policy. And so if you look at it that way, you now realize that if you're competing with China, you're going to have to do things a little bit differently. But the question is, how far do we go without putting these ethical guardrails? And so we will get to that point probably by the end of the year where we know exactly what policies we need so that we're not overregulated and what policies we must remove what policies that we have to have so that we're protected. And we'll get to that balance, but we're going to do it the American way, which is it's all over the map. It's free market. And when something goes wrong, someone gets sued and then everything gets fixed. And so that's kind of how we do it in a very reactive way. In other countries, I mean, if it's built for the company and the country, it's different. It's proactive, and that's what China's done. But we're ultimately built for the individual rights. We're built for companies and their ability to actually operate, with as much freedom as they can before they actually harm someone. And so it's going to take some time. But those basic principles are embedded in almost everything. Most companies realize they have to do that, and they've got to get to the ability to reverse decisions. That's the hard part for a lot of companies. And the last part around that is how do we actually allow companies to find that right balance? Because other countries like Europe's going to have very restrictive policies. So you're going to see this mix and mash that actually happens, and you'll see sovereign data and sovereign AI pick up because people want their AI to reflect their country's values and sometimes their company's values.
Yeah, and then and the values are all different as well.
Very different.
More and more different, and so it's going to be quite interesting. The globalization. Do you believe that globalization is on its way out?
I think globalization will look different. I don't think it's on its way out. I think we're going to cooperate with partners with the same values. We have to combat bad actors. China has been a bad actor for too long. They've stolen secrets. They've taken our data. They've taken our information. They've monetized it. They haven't given us credit. They've come into markets. They've flooded markets illegally. I think that's really what happened, right? Like Europe may not have a car industry in 5 years if they don't put up tariffs, because Chinese EVs will be at $10,000 a pop, and you can't compete with that. It doesn't mean European countries should not get their labor costs down or their energy costs down along the way. But if you're going to buy some time with tariffs, you have to do something with it. Don't just put up tariffs and do nothing. Right. And so you have to do both. And I think that's what we're doing in the country.
Right. Another question. So thank you, Maggie, for that question. What are most CEOs not talking about publicly that they are actually worried about privately?
I think most CEOs are trying to figure out what is the path forward. What they really want is some stability in the marketplace. Like, do we have a stability on our interest rate policy? Do we have stability on where we are in tariffs? What can we do to reduce geopolitical risk? You have to give these CEOs that are operating the last 3-4 years a lot of credit for business resiliency. Like since COVID, I mean, it's crazy. They've managed a pandemic. They've managed a potential financial meltdown. They've seen different types of geopolitical risk. I mean, if you look at the big picture, I mean, there has been a reduction in the number of wars out there, and that's useful. There has been a reduction in terms of, trying to, drive down and reset some of the trade agreements so that it's more fair. But it's a messy process. I mean, it's been a crazy process, but you only get to do this once in a lifetime. And I think that's really what's going on here. But once we get past that, I think it's going to be hopefully a lot more peaceful.
Yeah. I think what I look at is the CEOs and the companies. There used to be a world order that you could kind of rely on, that these are the standards, these are the values, these are the policies. Whatever country you go to, you understand where they stand. Now it seems to be an uproar, an upheaval. So now, as a business leader, I don't exactly know what the impact is going to be of my decision, because I don't know what the values or the policies are of a particular company, because it's going to change day by day. So I think there's a stability, there's a real focus to your point around stability. I think there's a question around how stable can we be with our decisions that we make, and what will the outcome look like? Because we don't really know what countries really want to do.
I mean, take July, August, September last year, everything came to a grinding halt. I mean, people weren't able to make budget decisions. People weren't able to move forward. I mean, that's the thing we want to avoid. We want to make sure that people feel that they have the stability to make longer term decisions, and they have the stability to actually plan ahead. So let's say you're not doing 10-year plans or 5-year plans, right? But at least, at least get a 1-year plan off the ground. I mean, if you can't even do that, we're in trouble.
Half life. Yeah. I mean, it used to be a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Now it's like, we're fine with 2.5. Thank you.
2.5. We'll take 2.5.
Right. So. Okay. Thank you for that. So you've worked with countless boards of directors. What is the question that board members should be asking their CEO about AI and digital transformation and cyber and technical debt and all those things, but they almost never do? Maybe there's more than one question. There might be several questions, but are there areas that we should be probing on as board members to our CEOs?
So going back to the exponential scale piece, the question is, are you operating in the right scale? And I think that's the one thing. We have a very private, exclusive event that you're invited to, Daphne, that you know about. You're on vacation in a very wonderful place. And in that event, that's what we're going to be talking about. We have 80 board of directors and CEOs from some of the most powerful global public companies meeting and convening. And the thing is, understand scale. Your boards don't typically understand that scale. Like 50% is great. And you're like, back to your point on context, for what, right? And that is why we're in this challenge. The other piece is understanding how these future technologies are going to impact your business. It is one of those things, like if you look at material science, it's going in an interesting way. It's the biomaterials that are kind of crazy. If you think about energy, what are we doing for driving down energy costs? And what does that mean to your business when you're running on tokens and you basically have to have tokens to run all your AI? Where's quantum going to take us? Does it mean all your encryption and security goes away? Are there space technologies that are dual use for environment that can actually help you be more efficient? I mean, the answer is yes. And so we're bringing all these things together. And I think board of directors need to know that it's not just about software and hardware technology. There's a lot going on. And of course, there's a little bit about geopolitical risk, but that's out of your control.
Okay. Interesting. Very good. I know we're starting with our board about, AI governance, making sure that we understand the degree to which AI fits our strategy. What's the impact going to be? What's the value? What's the risk going to be? And so we're really hunkering down a lot on AI. When you think about scale, that's a huge thing as well. That's great. Thank you. So if you could implement one global policy tomorrow on AI that will help everyday people win in this AI age, what would it be? Or is it not about policy? Is it about something else?
Oh, no, it is definitely about policy. And it's a great question. Here's why. A really good friend of mine named Richie at Waru started a company called Humanity. And what humanity was about was making sure that your personal data, your genomics, your information belonged to you. And making that a property right in the United States meant that it would apply to all the laws in all the states because you have property rights. And by giving that back to you, you now can make the decision as to whether your data can be used by someone else. So they need permission, and whether there's a value exchange. Maybe I'm going to donate all my data to the American Cancer Society for research. Maybe you're going to pay me for data for some other kind of clinical study. Maybe my data in an advertising campaign or in a marketing campaign, you can't use for any kind of permission. And bringing the data back to ownership at the individual level, giving that individual the agency to determine what they want to do with that data, by making it a property right, you could do that. And I think it is definitely a policy.
Wow. I mean, but then all the thieves come out because they want your data too. And
they do.
That'll take some doing, I would imagine, Ray. To have that be
well, you can. So there are benevolent dictatorships, monarchies, where they can go do that. And if they did that, they could actually transform things. So I won't mention where this was, but one country could potentially give all their citizens the rights to their health data. And by doing that, they could actually end up with the most prestigious research institutions coming to do the research, because now there's a mechanism to actually pay people for research, for clinical trials. So now they got the top researchers coming in. They can actually create some of the best healthcare systems, and the pharma companies are going to want to join in, because now these are the places where they can actually operate. So you get the pharma, you get the best doctors, the patients are empowered, and suddenly you have a healthcare system that could pay for itself. You can be paid $600, let's say $300 to $600 per clinical trial. I mean, I'm a free market capitalist, but if you want a universal basic income, that's one way to go deliver that off of the data of everyone.
So it's like liberating the data. Free the data, free the data.
Don't free the data. Take my data and let me make money off of it.
Exactly.
Free the data from the evil corporate. No, I'm just kidding. Free the data from the overlords. And so make that my data and let me make money off of it.
Love it. All right. Free the data. That's a new sign we're going to carry.
We got t-shirts coming.
These t-shirts are great. Okay.
We'll wear them at Mardi Gras. I wonder what they're thinking about.
Say what?
We'll wear them at Mardi Gras. Free the data. People are like, what are you talking about?
That'll be very much a conversation piece. All right. So let me ask you about your work and your personal sustainability. You've held executive roles, obviously, at powerhouse firms, host Disrupt TV. You're doing 3 keynotes just this week. You just did one an hour ago. How do you avoid spreading yourself too thin, Ray? And how can our viewers understand the framework that you find useful to know which opportunities are distractions versus which ones are accelerators or multipliers for yourself? How do you know when to say no?
That's my biggest problem, knowing when to say no. But let's start here. I would say everybody operates differently. For me, I treat the human interaction as the most important place. So if I'm somewhere, I'm present, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean I'm not multitasking, but I value an in-person meeting. And when I'm at a conference, I will do that first and then do all my work at night. Or I would do all my work during the day so that I can actually mingle, meet, and connect with people during the evening. And so I make sure that I don't have dead time. And I also make sure that I have blocks of time to think. Some tasks really need you to just stay focused 3-4 hours working on it. Other tasks, you can multitask and do multiple things at the same time. And so I've gotten really good at figuring out time management as to where I need to be for something and how to optimize myself, right? So some people need like an hour to prep before a keynote or do that. Like I need like 10 minutes just to get on stage, be calm, hop on and go, right? You'll find what works for you, but distractions are things that take you backwards. And things that are accelerators are things that either pay it forward in the future or something that you need to do right now because you just happen to be there with someone. And you should take advantage of that serendipity so that you can actually go build something, connect for something later. Priorities typically are, you start thinking about, is it a relationship? Is it related to revenue? Is it related to something good? Did you do something good today? Right? That's always an interesting question. Right? What do you do to help someone? And then you work your way back from there.
Okay, so it's doing something good, revenue, relationships. Those are the 3 things that you kind of balance.
I prioritize this, yeah.
Yeah, as you prioritize. Okay, great. is there a weekly discipline or a practice or a mantra or something that gives you an unfair advantage? Like, do you read incessantly? Do you work out all the time? Well, we know the answer to that. Are you meeting amazing, I'm kidding, meeting amazing people and getting in their head and learning? Like, what is it about what you do, Ray, that gives you an unfair advantage so that you're continuing to win?
I think it's because I go to so many events. I get to meet so many people that have a good ear to the ground. And that's something you can't change. There's a difference between expertise, which AI can do, and experience, which humans can do. And what I'm trying to do is use those signals for experience and then apply them in place. And so I think I don't have any, there's only like one standing meeting on my calendar, which sounds crazy, and it's Disrupt TV. And so for 10 years, me and Vala have gone together at 11 a.m. Pacific on a Friday to interview great guests like yourself and other folks. That's the only weekly discipline I have.
Wow.
I mean, I don't even cut the lawn on the same time or same day, like when I'm home. Like I have the most scattered schedule. If you want a regular, consistent approach, I'm not the guy to talk to. I'm the worst person to talk about that. If you want special ops, lots of chaos is going on and trying to create order out of chaos, that's me. And I do that every day. So that would be my magical power is I can take any chaos and bring it to order. But if you make me run those operations, you're going to hate me. I'm not the operating guy. So I'm special ops. And so it's a very disciplined, it's your ability to actually react quickly to things. And so I'm always absorbing. But there is one thing that's always in the background. I always have like business news, whether it's Bloomberg, Fox Business, or CNBC, it's always in the background. And it's amazing how much you absorb when you're not paying attention.
Right. That's amazing. So you always have that in the background. So there's something coming into your head about
always learning. I don't waste time on that. There's always something coming at me. I'm always talking to someone. And I think that just keeps you young.
That's great. I love it. So you make order out of chaos. And so I see that you got pattern recognition. I think you're a systems thinker. You're clearly agile. You read the crowd, you read the moment, you read the context, and then you execute. You're very
One last thing: surround yourself with great people.
Great people.
I mean, honestly, we have curated some of the most amazing people within the Constellation community, and everyone in that group is happy to help someone else. I mean, it is one of the rarest things where you have people that are willing to give you their time, and share that with you. So
that's awesome. So your book is literally called "Everybody Wants to Rule the World," which I think the song that we all know about. But
Tears for Fears. Tears for Fears.
We go. This goes so much further than that song. But we're seeing like a lot of consolidation with technology giants. There's the AI arms race or quantum arms race that is going on, the geopolitical technology tensions. You talked about the cost, the gap of kilowatt hour. Who do you think will actually rule the world by 2030, Ray? And should we be concerned about that? Everybody wants to rule the world. Who's going to do it?
So the battle between US and China is real. It's not a kinetic war, but it's a real war. And if you don't understand that we are in war, then the next three statements aren't going to make any sense. But what we're actually ultimately battling for is the fact that large corporations and large entities can only win in this AI race because you need the money to do that. You saw Google pony up 175 billion in capex for next year. You saw Amazon follow that with 200 billion in capex. And so what we really have is a capital allocation game going here as to who can outspend or who can be the most efficient in AI. And so I think if you don't have energy down right, you're going to lose. And so somewhere between now and 2030, the US has to get their energy costs down from 16 cents to about 4 cents to be able to play. Europe has better get their act together in terms of getting cheaper energy forms. All forms are in. The green revolution was kind of nice, but you're not going to survive. You can do both, but it's not going to be in the order of operations you wanted it to be. And so that's really, I think that China has a massive edge because of the energy, and they'll get to the chips. And if they get to the chips, then the world's going to look very Chinese versus very West. And you have to decide, is that what you want to be or not? And that's what you should be concerned about. But then the meta question about what individuals should be concerned about is, what does it mean to be human? I mean, what does that mean when you don't have augmentations, when you don't have AI assisting you? Are the Olympics the same if everybody's augmentation and different kind of like body suits? You know, is humanity changing because we're working with machines on art? Are we going to label everything that says created by a human? I mean, it's going to be interesting, right? We're starting to do that. We're starting to figure out provenance of ideas, but that's what I'm worried about is, do we know what it means to be human? Or will we end up like Idiocracy, the movie, where, we just get dumber because the technology gets smarter.
Yeah.
So I think those are the questions we're going to ask.
Well, I think somebody talked about, because of the proliferation that we anticipate of agents, so there's going to be non-humans in the workforce and there's going to be humans. So right now we have, Chief Human Resources Officer, CHRO. We are going to need a chief non-human resource officer as well as a human resource officer. So we got to think about, how are we going to develop these agents? How are we going to develop people who are at the lower level, at the organization? How do they grow? Because if AI is doing all these low-level roles, how do I train our low-level people to become the middle-level managers? So there's a non-human and a human component, I think, to what's going to happen in terms of how we rule the world. So
we're the last generation of managers to only manage humans. Think about that.
Yeah, the last generation of managers that manage people only.
Right? They're going to be agents managing humans and humans managing agents. So you're going to see that mix pick up.
Amazing. All right, I've got some quick rounds for you, Ray. If you had an opportunity to have dinner with a person, whether it's a historical figure that's alive or dead, who would you have dinner with and why?
I want to have dinner with Gene Roddenberry, the guy that created Star Trek. We basically have been building to the Star Trek roadmap, like from universal translators to holodecks to warp drives to medical advances. And I want to know how he came up with all that stuff and how they got from the current economy to the Star Trek economy, from where we work for money to where we work for ideas. Like, what happened in between? Like, was there a war? Did something happen? How do we get to this point where people can just do what things that they want to do and pursue happiness, right? Like, what happened in between? And that's the question I've been asking.
That's a great question, because you think about, all you do is you see the outcome of where Star Trek is, but you don't know the inner rumblings of how it got there, what transformations happened, what disruptions occurred, what things did they have to give up, what things did they have to embrace. You don't see all of that. You just see the outcomes of the ship and the technology and all that.
Yep.
Okay. What book are you reading?
Well, we have 25 books that we chose for 2025 from Disrupt TV, and there's a list of them. And so one I really like is Brave Together, if you haven't read that. That's written by the guy who is kind of a coach to Steve Jobs, Chris Stever. And it's a good book that talks about where this future is going to be and how do you future-proof design and innovation. So Chris Stever and Ian Clausen put this book together. So, but we have 25 great books that we rank, and we interview a lot of authors. And so it's always tough for me to actually name a book. The one I'm rereading right now is actually Atlas Shrugged, because it's coming back. It's coming back.
What's her name?
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand, yes. Yeah, that's been a long time since I read. I'm going to read that one again too.
Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, but I'm reading Atlas Shrugged, rereading it, and trying to figure out there's an empathetic angle to this book.
Right, I'm going to check that one out. Well, thank you for that. Finish this sentence for me. I win when I what?
When I bring someone with me to have fun.
Okay, love it. Thank you so much, Ray. It's a great time that I had with you. I miss being on your stage. I'm going to miss being on your stage and in the room in March as well. We're going
Secret event. Don't tell too many people. Don't name dates. Don't name people. It's a very secret event.
Well, I appreciate you. So, what a great conversation. Let me tell you all who's coming up next.
Ooh.
In March, my husband and I are going to be hosted by Rashawn Harris, and you all hear me talk about other people or interview other people. Well, this is going to be the time when you guys are going to hear us talk about ourselves. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then in April, Karika Weldon, who is a PhD and the owner of Carry Genetics, which is a Caribbean genetics company that's going to help change and drive drug discovery because of the amount of DNA that Caribbeans have within them, which represents the most diverse DNA in the world. So Carrie is the CEO and founder and PhD of Carrie Genetics. Join us in March and April for our next event.
Precision medicine. That's she's amazing.
You know Carrie?
I know of her work. So
yeah, she's amazing. I met her in South Africa, and she's doing her Bermuda show in a couple of weeks, and we're going to try to go. But Ray, thank you so much. What a powerful conversation. And here's what I got, you guys. Winning there's evidence of winning. Winning leaves clues, and every person who steps into this winner's circle reminds us that success is not just about titles. Ray has a ton of titles, but it's about his intention. It's about his courage. It's about his curiosity. And it's about the willingness to evolve in a world before the world forces you to. And that's where the winners are going to happen. If today's conversation moved you or challenged you or inspired you, don't just act. Don't listen. I want you to act. I want you to decide, what does winning mean for you? I want you to commit to one bold move this week. And remember, the winner's circle is not just for a select few. It's actually earned by those of us who chose to show up, who choose to grow up, and who choose to rise up. I'm Daphne E. Jones, and I thank you for joining us. And I'll see you next time in the winner's circle. God bless you, and thank you, Ray.